Ann Arbor is a progressive city here, but it is, Michael Cox learned, it is not immune from so many of the problems facing police departments with community relations all across the nation. Now, over our 2 days here and speaking with people, we've learned there was a lot of hope with his arrival and mixed emotions as he heads home.
I said to him on, I think, my first meeting of him, I said, now you don't know me, but you're going to have to watch your back.
Shirley Beckley knows Ann Arbor. At 80 years old, the community activist has spent most of her life here, and she knew all too well that Michael Cox would have an uphill battle. What were the biggest challenges that Chief Cox faced here in Ann Arbor?
I think dealing with the police union and his staff. He was willing to do what the community wanted, what some of the city council wanted, but he didn't have the support he needed.
Cox walked into a community still dealing with the aftermath of a deadly police shooting. In 2014, an officer shot and killed Ora Rosser during a domestic call. The 40-year-old black woman had a knife.
Our police force is very, very white. And so I think there was some hope that by having a black chief, we would see some change or have more access to have input on policing.
Dr. Lisa Jackson helped bring Michael Cox to Ann Arbor. As the chair of the Independent Oversight Commission, she hoped he'd bring a new approach to policing. What did Chief Cox accomplish while he was here?
And I think he brought this idea that maybe community policing could be achieved. I don't know that he achieved that while he was here, but I think he was a part of that conversation.
Hopefully I'll be able to, walk the walk as well as talk the talk.
That was Chief Cox not long after he took the job here. Jackson gave him credit for his efforts, but adds that for many communities, his vision wasn't fully realized.
I think he did make an effort to be available to people, but I don't know if we saw policing change from the top down in terms of its relationship with communities of color.
Ann Arbor's population is about the size of Cambridge, a fraction of Boston's. It's 70% white compared to 48% in Boston. In both cities, about a fifth of the population lives below the poverty line. And in both cities, Shirley Beckley says Michael Cox found an undercurrent of racism that impacted his career.
But he got a lot of flack for trying to do what we, the community, thought needed to be done to bridge that gap between the community and the police.
Chief Cox was on paid administrative leave early in his tenure here, accused of creating a hostile work environment over a parking ticket investigation. But city leaders we spoke with say that was an overreaction on the city administrator's part. And in fact, they praised Cox for his demeanor.
But I never felt that he had any difficulty being a leader.
As for returning to the force where he personally faced police brutality, people here say Michael Cox is ready.
I don't think that he has much tolerance for cops who are not following policy, for cops who are brutalizing the public, for cops who are lying.
Shirley Beckley offers this final wish.
And I certainly hope that the mayor of Boston will make sure he has some support, so he can do what I think he's capable of doing.
And that's what we heard from so many people here. Respect for Michael Cox's openness and his ideas, and hopes that the lessons learned here, as well as leadership at home, will help him as he returns to Boston.